Hello, welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and it's a special edition of It's Sybil. It's Sybil's book club today. And I have three very special books, three special women who have written these books, and talking to my friend and good friend, Pat Bailey. She is a caregiver coach. She is an expert. You may have seen her on our programming before, and in business with Miss Pat regarding Black Alzheimer's and her fight for Black people who are affected by that disease. But Miss Pat she's now author, Pat Bailey. Hello, Pat. How you doing?
Sybil, oh my gosh, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about this book. Oh my gosh. And thanks for the intro.
Oh, well, no, thank you for all that you do. The book is called Piccolo and Angel. I don't know if you can see that. Piccolo and Angel. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. Um, Tell me about your journey as an author, Miss Pat. How did this come about? What what was that moment you decided, oh my gosh, I've got to write a book?
You know what, Sybil? I have been a frustrated author since a child. And in a lot of my musings and submitting work, I just never felt enough. The critique was a little bit too difficult for me. And one day I had two friends who lost their mothers. And I was so moved by it that I was trying to figure out what could I say to allow them to feel better about the situation. And I'm in the divinity space and God put me on my knees. I honestly am writing on top of the sofa with a notepad on my knees. And out of that was born Piccolo and Angel, named after two things.
Okay.
Music and graham crackers.
There's another part to the book, Piccolo and Angel, Learning to Cope When Potentially Losing a Loved One by Patricia Bailey. So I should say, although it looks like it could be a children's book,
Yes.
it doesn't feel like one to me. It feels like a book that could perhaps work with children, but I felt as though I needed this book as an adult and as an aging person in order to perhaps deal with some losses in my life or in helping other people through their losses.
It was a book about closure. And keep in mind, these were two male friends that lost their mother. So, and they were adults. And imagine me getting the book from my head to the pen in the direction of a children's story. But you're right, with the topic is very, very complicated because we find ourselves being exposed to the subject of death, of course, never on a timely manner. It happens when it happens. And how do you tell people or give them an opportunity to address their grief? And that's where Angel comes into play to walk Piccolo through the subject of what to expect, not knowing if it's about his mother, of course, not knowing if his mother really and truly passed away, but you just explain to him the concept of what may be coming, what is available to him, and to accept his grief, and then how he will eventually move through the grief as well, meaning it gives him hope.
It's a great explanation for both children and adults, and for adults who may have experienced loss in the past, but now are reconfronted with it, dealing with it in a new way as an adult. Perhaps they dealt with it as a child, but now and I know that was in my case, but losing my dad, but now having survived a number of losses of friends and family and what have you. It is a reinvention, if you will, or a reconnecting with the topic and how we deal with it. How was Piccolo born to you?
It really is that I think I actually have still a little bit of a child's heart. And so in this instance, I'm really big about playing. It was so funny when I was asked, what did I want for Mother's Day? I'm like, I want to go outside and play.
Okay.
I mean, real talk. I mean, and we went and we played a game because that's what I like to do. So it was really great to be able to, embody a child who is coming home from school, the skipping that comes along with it, the whole feeling, right, of rain boots and, you know, hitting the rain and then coming into the door. And we know, we can remember being a child with the expectations of running into the house and saying, "Mother, I'm home."
No. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sometimes I think children just would come into the house just to make sure their parents are just there.
Yeah, they will come.
Around.
And I would do that. Like, after my dad died, I would go around the house and my mother was in a quiet mode or whatever. And I would just peek around the corner just to see that she was there, just to connect and make sure that she was there.
Yes. And so it was embodying a spirit of a young child, connecting once again with, you know, who he loved, which is mom in this instance, and to then be confronted with all of these adults. It's not the house that I want to come home to after school.
Right.
What are all these people doing in my space when I'm coming to get my big hug, or I'm coming to get my afternoon snack? And it's just, imagine this happy-go-lucky child facing one of the most difficult moments of his life. And so it just made sense for it to be a little boy, and that I'm also a mother of a son.
Right, so. right. But you're also the grandmother of a wonderful young woman. So
yes, and a grandson.
And a grandson.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. How do you deal with the or how did it come to you to talk about hearing voices? Because some people say, "Well, I hear voices," and like, okay, we got something for you for that. But children especially have an open spirit to hearing from their angel, if you will.
You know what? That is such a powerful question. The ability to imbibe inside oneself, in which to connect with the voice, was something that stayed with me. I never lost it. Mm-hmm. And I think also when I entertained my childhood and being a military brat and moving around, I found myself creating stories in my head. I actually had, I used to create my own novellas. I mean, it literally was like every day, it was like a new version of a soap going on in my head about what happened yesterday. And now the story begins. That's how I got through washing all those dishes, by the way. It made sense for me to hear this from God and accept it. Not to take away from the fact that I had just moved from Chicago to Dallas, and I was lonely. And it was interesting that while in Chicago, I was so busy all the time that now, in terms of I really don't have any friends here, it was within almost like 6 months of my being here, I started writing again. Something that I had done. I used to do the little stand-up, little stand-in shows back in Chicago, poetry readings and all of that. That was me. And I got here and I started, I think the opening of my spirit to God allowed him to download for something that was treasured for me, which is, how do I help my friends deal with a loss? What would I say to them? And isn't it ironic, Sybil, that now in the caregiving space in which I sit, this is the book that hospice organizations have looked at. Yeah.
And born from that. Wow. Yes. My friend is Patricia Bailey, and she has written a book called Piccolo and Angel, Learning to Cope When Potentially Losing a Loved One. It's for all ages. It is for the young reader, where you deal with the subject as best you can, or give them as much information. And they will take, what you give them and try to parse through it. But it is also for adults who may be going through this, or to help someone else who is going through it, and to be there and understand what they can or cannot accept, or what they do need in this process. I will tell you that I have not been one to. Part of my problem is I ask God to show me the way. Okay. And when I say that, I'm looking for him to guide me, but I'm also looking to hear his voice, because I've heard his voice once. And that was right in one particular time, a very serious time when my mother was undergoing a mastectomy. And I had just walked her as she was being rolled into the operation room. And I walked downstairs where all of her friends were gathered. And I walked out the door. This was at Michael Reese Hospital, the old Michael Reese.
Yes.
And I walked out and it was kind of a cloudy, overcast day in October. And I was crying and I was, just beseeching. And he said, it's going to be okay. I heard it just as clear as I'm hearing your voice today. Now, so I'm thinking, okay, so we got this thing going. But I don't hear it anymore. I don't, and so I'm thinking that he's guiding me, but I'm that kind of person. I need you to tell me. I need to hear you say
give me the play-by-play,
yes,
step.
Yes.
Sybil, I honestly can admit that I actually can acknowledge that I do get the word still to this day. I do get a lot of it also in my dream state.
Mm-hmm.
And I use it often, but I'm also conscious of there are times when I don't get it. But then I'm also coached to make good decisions.
Right.
So that led me to draw the conclusion that even if the voice is not there in the land of reason of who I am between my heart and my mind, that I'm being actually given sound direction. And as a result, you start a show as an example and look at the results of this, in terms of what you need to know. It's like you follow your heart to your mind and it still works out. I take pleasure when I hear it. I don't always hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always get the check mark that says, hey, this is a job well done. And I would say that the opportunity to talk about this book in this instance is another confirmation. I never heard that this would happen, that I would have an opportunity to talk about Piccolo and Angel. But it's another confirmation of him saying, this is the good work that I want you to do. And I'll reward you with the results that's in front of you.
Right. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I think it's beautifully written. And I wanted to point out this one particular page. It says, in this case, the sun is like the deep understanding and the faith we get when we accept God's will and realize no pain should last forever. Every day when we get up, we should look for the sun in our life. Looking for the sun is your grabbing onto your joy and happiness. We should look for happy in every available moment. And that is so important, especially for those that such as myself, we kind of get bogged down in the everyday and the bad news and all of the things that happen and difficult challenges. And we don't look for the sun in those moments in our lives. And that was my takeaway from this, along with, bandages, to kind of, to cover the scabs of our wounds, of our losses.
Yes.
But that's really powerful. It really is powerful.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You're going to ask a question.
How have the Piccolos in your life responded to this?
I get a lot more. Once again, it's from the adults. And it was encouraging. I assembled a team of people about a year ago to take a look at my marketing and what this book felt like to them. And in their instance, even in seeing the illustrations, they were like, and they all had this certain part of nuggets. And the one thing that I like that you brought up that moved you is I was in a quiet space when this was revealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
I put myself in a vacuum of listening to God to hear. And that's also, by the way, one of my methods of seeking joy, seeking to hear. Like, download on me right now. These are my concerns. And then just go empty. To be able to do that has been a true pleasure for me.
The book is called Piccolo and Angel, Learning to Cope When Potentially Losing a Loved One by Patricia Bailey. How can people get the book, Ms. Pat?
FindingNewTomorrows.com. They can actually...
You'll get a lot at FindingNewTomorrows.com. I'm telling you, it's like an encyclopedia of life events and solutions to some of the issues that people are are challenged by today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great job, Miss Pat. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Once again, the book is called Piccolo and Angel. You can find it at findingnewtomorrows.com. And when you go to Finding New Tomorrows, it's like an encyclopedia of things that you never knew that you needed, but it's right there. And you are the best in terms of what you do in caregiving and being a coach and guiding us through our challenges. Thank you so much for joining Sybil's Book Club today.
Thank you so much, Sybil. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you. We are going to continue our tour with wonderful lady book writers. This book we're going to talk about now is Walk It Like I Talk It. Walk It Like I Talk It. Deborah Nixon Bowles is the author of this book. Deborah, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Sybil. I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm very well. Deborah, we have mutual friends, and I know of you primarily through my friends, the Whites, but you are also the founder of a wonderful organization. Tell us about what you do.
Women Called Moses is an organization that provides services for women and children that have been impacted by domestic violence, as well as women that have experienced human trafficking and just bad luck. And so that's pretty much what we do.
So how did this book come to you? How did Walk It Like I Talk It, which I love the title. How did that come to you?
Really, several people told me, hey, Deborah, you really need to write a book about your experience and your journey. And the reason I really wrote the book was because I felt like it was another part of closure for me as a survivor of domestic violence, a part of healing. And I wanted other survivors to know you might not make it on TV, but you sure can tell your story by writing your own story. And me writing my own story, I realized that I hadn't forgiven my father. And I think that's a part of my healing, that I always felt that there's another piece of my healing that I'm missing. And that was forgiving my father for not being there and protecting me as a little girl, and just being there, validating me, not looking for validation from other men. And so writing this book as well allowed me to tell other women, if I can do it, you can do it. And before you even go into another relationship, I think writing a book, you'll learn a lot about yourself, your behaviors such as unforgiving, insecurity. It's just so many things that I learned about myself writing this book. Was it difficult? Yes, it was difficult because it started opening up wounds again that I really, truly thought that I was healed. Here's the going girl, know-it-all, Pentecostal, got all these gifts that God has given me. But there was a piece in there that I hadn't forgiven some people that I needed to go back. Even my son's father, I had to go back and say, hey, I need to forgive this man.
Right. And to be able to move on in a lightness of spirit that
That's
you have. Yeah. You said in the book, in the preface, you said, Deborah, walk it like you talk it. And you said God spoke that to you one day. Do you remember where that was? What happened that engendered that?
It was no money in the bank account that I had for my nonprofit organization. And I had called my donors. I had depleted on this particular day. And I almost felt like I was being defeated again from what my ex-husband used to say, you're not going to be anything. You can't do anything. You can't finish. I mean, I just felt like I was self-talking to myself in a negative way. And this particular day, God just said, get up and walk it. And this particular day, I went to the Dallas Mavericks. And I went out in the parking lot, and I could hear God saying, walk it like you talk it. And he said, take it by force. And at that time, Cynthia Marshall was the new CEO over there. And, politically correct, you're supposed to have an appointment or make an appointment to go see someone on that level.
Sure.
I kicked the door, I walked in, and they was like, ma'am, you don't have an appointment? I goes, no, I really don't, but I used to work here, and I'm using favor now. Right. So he's like, well, hold on. They go and they talk to Seth and everything. And they was like, no, she can't talk to you right now. And I'm like, okay, God, you told me to walk it like I talk it. So the guy was like, look, give her a call, blah, blah, blah. He went on to tell me this story about calling and all that. I'm like, okay, I get it. So about face, I walk around, I see former Chief Brown, and he's standing there and he goes, hey, Deborah, your name just came up about your organization. I said, really? He goes, yeah. And he said, just hold on. I think something is coming your way. And so by this time, Sybil, I'm walking back to my vehicle, but I see people waving. I'm like, why are they waving at me? And I'm like, hey guys, I'm walking in faith. God told me to walk in and take it by force. And I'm walking and people laughing and cheering me on. And I'm sitting here like, okay, but I walk in faith, but I'm still not seeing anything, Sybil. So by this time, I go home that night, I'm in my bed, and I'm sitting there literally crying, like everybody's getting money from North Texas Giving Day. I'm not getting anything. And God, the needle's not moving. Women call Moses at $50 still. And I'm just feeling really defeated. By this time, I opened my laptop. And when I opened my laptop, I was number 7. Mark Cuban had just given to 7 organizations. 7 organizations, and I was the 7th one. And I believe that's my faith saying, Deborah, if you're not embarrassed and you have enough faith to walk it like you talk it, you walk the land and you go claim what is yours. And I believe that was walk it like you talk it.
Yeah, I don't know if people know about North Texas Giving Day, if they have it in other cities, but it is a wonderful opportunity for people to support nonprofit organizations on this particular. Actually, it's a day, but it kind of expands because, you know, building up to it and letting people know what's going on. It's a wonderful opportunity to support and to make connections with people who are the heads of great organizations like you and a woman called Moses. You are very dedicated to the use of affirmations. Yes. What does that mean to you?
Affirmation. Mm-hmm. When I get up in the morning, I wake up and I read my affirmation every morning. And I figure that's my me time and God's time. And if I can get that in my spirit before I kick my day off, I'm going to walk it like I talk it because I've already put it in my spirit. I put it in my mind, my spirit, and I have to say it to myself first. And I have to believe my affirmation every morning. If I don't do it, I feel like I'm lost. I feel like I need a word for myself, and I have to declare that word. I have to mean it. I have to get it in my sanctified soul that, hey, Deborah, this is your affirmation for today, and you go for it. And that's how I continue to walk it like I talk it.
A different affirmation for every day?
Yes, I have to do it a different one every day. And the reason I do it every day, Sybil, is because that's a challenge for me.
Right.
Everybody have to do an affirmation the way that fits them. That's like when you walk it like I talk it, you have to walk your journey like God gave it to you, because everyone's journey is different. Everyone's affirmation is different. Mm-hmm. So when I get up in the morning, you know, it might be something different because every morning is not a good morning for me. Mm-hmm. So I have to switch. And that's when I have to be able to walk it like I talk it. When I have those depressed days, when I feel like those days I don't want to get up. I have to, you know, God might flip it. You know, that's why we can't get comfortable even in everyday business because things change on a daily basis.
This is the book we're talking about is Walk It Like I Talk It. This is Deborah Nixon Bowles and talking about her new book. And you said that God will open a door for provision and abundant blessings will flow forth for us to perform our work meticulously and expeditiously, which is the work that God has ordained and gifted us to do. You have not only the affirmations, but you also talk about the importance of a positive mindset. What does that mean to you?
You know, sometimes you get up in the morning, somebody can give you they can call you and be negative. And they can plant that negative seed in your mind. And having a negative seed in your mind can determine how your day is going to be. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we start and put, whether it's negative thoughts, you know, sometimes you can read, like sometimes I can get on social media and I'll start reading things that I shouldn't be reading, and it gets in my spirit. And, you know, it's negative things. And those negative thoughts can take you in a dark place. And a lot of times I can see like a situation where a lady has just been murdered. I'll start thinking about all the women that I have dealt with. But I also have to keep in mind how many women I have saved. And so I have to stay positive and say, okay, I didn't save that one, but guess what? I have saved many on this journey. So don't let that one little negative thought try to get in and overtake that good. And sometimes we'll do that.
You are a woman of multiple layers, as you say in the book, and you also don't you are not afraid to mix business and pleasure or the fun side of life with together. You're not afraid of that. Did you discover that accidentally? Was it an organic kind of discovery, or was it something that you absolutely planned to mix the work and the playful side, or the work and the pleasure side?
Well, when I got into it, I'll be honest, growing up Pentecostal, I remember growing up, my grandmother used to say, pray before you do anything. When you go to work or whatever it may be, she said, start your day off with prayer. And I remember when I used to work for the Mavericks, I would get up, before we have a game, and I would go get my oil and put a cross over my forehead. And they would always ask me, hey, Deborah, why do you do that? I say, because I don't want demons to get on top of me, or I don't want them to, cause me. And it was like, well, does that really work, Deborah? I said, for me, it worked. I don't know if it'll work for you. I said, but my grandma always told me that. And I was never ashamed of God. I always felt that if people could see my light, and if I can mix my faith with my business knowledge, it would help me from my stress level, for people knowing that, like, I'm real passionate about what I do. And I'm always saying, I don't do it because of Deborah, I do it because of God. I let even my donors know that. Or even when I'm out in the trenches and I'm saving women, I say, can we pray? And that's one reason I'm a faith-based organization, because I don't want no one to tell me I can't pray, or I can't pray for this victim, because I know the power of God, because I've experienced it for myself. I am a survivor of domestic violence. If it was not for God, I would have lost my mind long time ago. And I would have to say, God, thank you for renewing of my mind. God, thank you for protecting my mind, God. And so I want other women, when you're in a bad place, you can say your scriptures. You can take your faith. It's my faith that even have allowed me to have the business. When there's no money, I have to talk and say, God, you said I have not because I ask not. So that's when I start putting my business, the business principles with my scriptures, because his word would not go void. And when I would say the scriptures, but I would get it in my soul, and I believe that God would just open the doors for me, Sybil.
I believe that, and I know that when you were talking about working for the Mavericks, I would be surprised that Mark Cuban and Cynthia Marshall should be on the phone with you right now after the season that they just had. I'm just saying, they could use some of those oils.
I just see, Sybil, I'm glad and honored to be on your show, because you keep it real. I am a fan of Sybil, trust me. And I laugh because, believe it or not, I just sent a message. I text her actually, and I said, the Holy Ghost told me to give you a call. And I say, please give me a call, because we really need to have a conversation. I really feel that I could come over and pray with you guys and talk to you guys. And believe it or not, and she can vouch for this, she responded and say, let's do lunch. So
Okay.
see, that's once again, sometimes God tells us to do things and we think it's foolish, but the God that I serve is not a foolish God. But when he told me to do it, sometimes you're a little hesitant because the world that we live in. And I was like, okay, God, if you told me to do it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And so when she responded, I said, okay, God, you say, walk it like I talk it.
That's it. That's it. And that is the name of the book, Walk It Like I Talk It. And Deborah Nixon Bowles is a woman just like that. She hears the word, she hears the word of God, and the Lord speaks to her and the miracles that occur. As you've heard examples of that just today in our conversation on Sybil's Book Club. Deborah, how can people get a copy of your book?
They actually can go on Amazon. And you will see it, Walk It Like I Talk It, also dbowles.com. And so, well, let me say this. I'm truly just seeing you walk it like you talk it. You've been a blessing giving back to our community. I listen to a lot of topics from you. You make it plain and clear. And I want to thank you for coming back and giving us this opportunity. This is an opportunity that I know that God placed on your heart and the whites. And I'm so honored, because that's why I have to walk it like I talk it, to show other women. If God allowed me to have favor on Sybil Wilkes' show, and somebody like a producer of Yolanda Starks and attorney Ward White, I know it was nobody but God, because when I saw Yolanda at my book signing, I was like, Jesus, oh, that's Yolanda Starks. I am so honored, Lord. Oh my God. I mean, literally, I just felt, she made me feel like I was in Hollywood. And that's no joke. And
yeah,
then,
she does have that way about her.
That's it. And she's zero tolerance. And I was laughing. I was like, okay, I get to be on the show, but I'm just so excited about it. So just the fact that I have this opportunity, I know someone is listening, and I want them to know if I can do it, you can do it. Put your best heels on and go forward.
And that is what this book is all about. Thank you, Deborah. And I love the section about Ward White. Absolutely, Attorney Ward White. Before I chuckled when I read that, but it sounds. I mean, you captured it perfectly. Absolutely, absolutely.
I love him. I love Ward. When I was going through, we're actually coming out of my domestic violence situation. When I moved to Dallas from Houston, I was afraid to talk to men that had a high-pitched voice. And Attorney White was there for me. He's been a mentor to me, his wife, his mom. Everybody's been great, but Ward has been one of my greatest supporters. I tell anybody, as an attorney, he has a heart first. I love him for that, for pushing me the days that I don't feel like it. And I love him, and I thank God for the opportunity to work for him and with him.
I got to tell you, everybody should have Ward and Yolanda Starks White in their lives. Thank you so much. And Deborah, please come back. And your organization is Women Called Moses.
That is correct. WomenCalledMoses.org. If you know anyone that's experiencing any type of abuse, ladies, today we don't have to. And if you need any help, advice, counseling, and I highly recommend anybody, male, female, children, if you feel that you are being abused in any form, please don't hesitate to visit our website at www.wcmcares.org. I'm here to talk always. I have a listening ear.
Yes, you do. And a listening heart. Thank you, Deborah. So nice to see you, and congratulations. Walk It Like I Talk It is the book. Thanks, Deborah.
Love you. Thank you, Sybil. Keep up the great work.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let us move to our final book for today. It's called Retrospective Calling, Looking Back to Create Your Path Forward. And hello, Dr. Kim. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Kimberly Johnson Hatchett, MD. This is not a medical book, but you are putting people on the right path. And the doctor said, how to create looking. And I just think this is just such a wonderful title, Retrospective Calling, Looking Back to Create Your Path Forward. And you tell your story. And you're looking back as you're moving forward in your career, but you have great gems of advice and words of wisdom to share with. And I think especially for young people, and I'll tell you why I picked up the book, Dr. Kim, not only because you wrote it, but I run into a lot of people, young people who have finished college, and they're miserable. They don't know where they're going to go. They don't know what they're going to do. They may not have the money to go to graduate school. They don't. And somebody, just said, just check this book out. And I knew exactly who I wanted to give this book to. How did this book come to you?
So, and does the audio sound okay? I just want to make sure.
Yes, you're good.
Great. So I was, when I was in medical school, I was going to this church, and it was like a non-traditional church, and people would drink their lattes and hang out. And
a non-traditional church that had very few people that look like you and me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I've been to that church.
But someone that looked like us was preaching that day. He was a guest pastor from Chicago, and he got up and started talking about looking at your life in retrospection. And he said that when you look back over your life, you'll see this path that God has been paving for you. Mm-hmm. And you'll realize that when you look forward, he's been leading you to where you are right now all along. And I thought about that when he said that, and I thought about all the things I had been through to be at that point. At that point, I was in medical school. I had made it, I was almost done with medical school by the time I had heard this sermon, and it just stuck. It stuck with me. And I said, that's that's it. Retrospective calling. That's what people need to focus on, is what they've already been through is leading them to their future and their future selves.
So your future self, according to your daddy, you needed to do your studying at a medical school library so that you could meet and marry a doctor.
Right. Right. Yes, he was like, just go over there and study. He said, do your hair, look real nice, and study over there and meet somebody. And I was like, really, Dad? So yeah, now that he looks back at what he said, I should have never told you that. Had I known you had it in you, I would have just told you to go in and be a doctor.
And you're like, Daddy, I could have told you that.
Well, looking back, I didn't really know. Like my
Right.
parents were very adamant that my sister and I get business degrees.
Mhm.
And so that was their way out. Like at their age, many of their siblings were teachers. And they were like, teaching's a noble,
Sure.
profession.
Sure.
But we think you should be a business person. And so my sister and I both have business degrees because of that.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, not only is she an accomplished businesswoman, but she is the chief of medicine and a board certified neurologist, and all that happened before the age of 40, right?
I wish. No. Well, kind of. Yeah. You know what? I think about it now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, I guess it did happen right around the age of 40. All that stuff kind of fell into place.
Mm-hmm. So let me give you an example of why I think this is because you ask on the back of the book, and you ask in the book, what were you born to accomplish? Are you living your life on purpose, focused, joyful, and fulfilled at the same time? I don't know, especially these young people that are kind of questioning themselves and their lives and their directions and decisions they've made up to this point. I don't know a lot of young people that can say yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah.
And in this book, you really kind of lay it out for them. And where do you start with this discussion with yourself?
Well, and I think, this book obviously is geared towards someone who's kind of starting out. But then I think about so many people who, when I've asked those questions to people who are middle-aged or in their 50s, they don't know. They've never stopped to ask themselves those questions. But I think the first step is stopping and really asking and giving yourself the honest truth about whether you're living your life on purpose, whether you're actually doing what you said you wanted to do. And even if do you know? Like, that's the big thing. That's really the first start is, do you know? And if you don't, let's figure it out.
And where do you go to figure it out?
So when you think about it, you look at your experiences. And so that's kind of what I delve into the book, looking at your experiences and what you actually enjoy doing. Enjoy what brings you joy. Like even in your daily life, when you look back over your experiences, what has actually brought you joy? And it could be even little things like, oh, I enjoy knitting. Like I know a woman who makes quilts, and she has built an empire behind making quilts. And it's like she looked back and realized that she came from a family of quilters and that she actually enjoyed doing that and has built a business empire around it. And so I think had she, she came out of college, had she known that this was going to be her path, she probably would have laughed. But all of the things that she went through, all of the businesses that she was a part of, the corporation she was a part of, led her to the thing that she's at right now. So I think really thinking about and giving yourself the time to think and allowing yourself the time to really explore the I don't knows of your life can give you some clarity.
Does this save you from going out and getting and paying for a guidance counselor? And I don't even know if they have guidance counselors anymore. For postgraduate life. But I think this is a great guide and kind of put people on the track, because I think we have gotten away from seeking a real joy in our life with what we do and what we bring to the party, what we bring to the table, and in order to make the next chapter of our life productive and joyful.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I felt so excited about writing this book and understanding is because in my line of work, I deal with death a lot. I diagnose people, the vast majority of my patient population now has ALS. And so that's a pretty, it's a deadly disease.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband and I say this all the time. None of us are going to make it out of here alive. None of us are. And so the time that we have, we've got to do it on purpose and just find the joy in, not just find the joy in your purpose going forward, but find the joy in where you are right now. Because a lot of us think, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to be doing that. But really, if you think about it, maybe you're supposed to be doing what you're doing right now, and you need to find the joy in that.
Is that advice that you give to your patients?
Yeah. So like for my patients, I think that I tell them, so like when I give people that diagnosis of ALS, right?
Can you explain what ALS is for people? I mean, they may have heard it, but.
Yeah, and actually May is ALS Awareness Month.
Look at there.
ALS is it's called Lou Gehrig's disease. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is what the ALS stands for. But it's a muscle disease, and the easiest way for me to explain it is it's like an autoimmune type of disease that attacks your skeletal muscles. So not your heart. That's a different type of muscle, but the vast majority of your muscles that we move, my talking, chewing, breathing, unfortunately, is a skeletal muscle. And so what ALS does is it attacks those muscles in random places. So some people will come to me and think they have carpal tunnel, and then I'll do the exam on them and realize, no, this is going to develop into ALS. So the only skeletal muscle that it doesn't hit until really, really late stage are your eye muscles. So people can still look around and blink, but other than that, it depending upon how severe the disease is, it can attack all of those skeletal muscles and take away your ability to move, take away your ability to talk, to swallow, and then unfortunately breathe.
Wow. And so I cut you off in order to explain that, but you were saying when you have your patients and you made that diagnosis and you're talking to them.
Yeah. I try to talk to them about focusing on what they have right now and focusing on what their goals are, because you now know you've been given the answer of what's going to be the thing that actually probably is going to have you check out. And so now what are the things that you've always wanted to do? What are the things that you're passionate about? And I want you all to really focus on those things, because this is the time. You don't have that much time left.
Right.
Even my dementia patients, the ones that are early in the dementia diagnosis, and they still have an awareness of who they are and their loved ones, do all the things that you've always wanted to do, because your time is going to be short. And then I tell the loved ones to enjoy every moment you have, because it's the finiteness of my job makes me really think about those things.
How does that affect your relationship with other people who may be going through, and maybe this is where the book came from, but it's like, oh, woe is me. What am I going to do? I'm not happy. And you're like, you could have ALS, you could have Lewy body's disease, you could have any one of these diseases that I deal with on a regular basis. Stop it, and let's talk about finding the happy spots, the happy points in your life.
Well, and not even finding just the happy points, just finding the appreciation of even the sad points.
Right. Okay.
And appreciating the fact that we can have the luxury of feeling sad. There's some people in the world that don't even have that luxury. Like, they are in survival mode. And so when things happen, they have to take that emotion and put it to the side, and they can't even process those things. So we have the luxury of even being able to process our frustrations. We have to process our anger, process all the emotions that God has given us, and really appreciate them all as they come.
That is amazing. It is. I'm telling you, you're really it puts your life in perspective, this retrospective calling.
Yes.
And looking back to create your path forward. Dr. Kimberly Johnson Hatchett, we met when you were kind enough to come on It's Sybil a while ago, and you were very kind to send us this book, and I'm so glad you did. I'm going to give several copies to people who are, some of us may feel like we're stuck. or don't know where, to go after losing a job, and that's what coronavirus did for many of us.
Yeah.
But also for young people who are just not fresh out of college, but still just kind of finding their way,
Right.
and looking back and looking forward, and can give you a little bit of a neck a neck problem. But I promise you that everybody's going to come out with something regarding the retrospective calling. Dr. Kim, how can people find your book?
They can find it on Amazon or any bookstore that's online. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, all of those online bookstores have the ability to order from there.
And any book that's got a sunshine on it, I'm there. I absolutely appreciate it. I love following you too. I think that you have a wonderful way with your children, and you have a great sense of humor, your Mother's Day, and all of those things that are just really great. I really appreciate it. And people can find you on Instagram, I know for sure.
Yeah, Dr. Kim Neurodoc. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the book. And I promise you, this is going to be a really great book for people. Wherever you are in your life, pick up a copy of Retrospective Calling. Thank you, Dr. Kim. We appreciate it and hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Sybil's Book Club with you. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And we will continue to have more great authors on talking about the issues that come out of their books. We appreciate you joining us today. I want to close out with our jewel. What did I do with the darn jewel? Okay, hang on one second. I promise I have it. Okay. For today, have you noticed that most of the things that we worry about never happen? Don't worry. Be at peace. You thought I was going to say be happy. Be at peace. Peace brings about that happiness, I'm sure. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for participating in our daily show. And for, if you have any books that you'd like to recommend, shoot us a text or during the regular show. Let us know what you'd like for us to cover. Go to SybilWilkes.com to sign up for the newsletter, the What You Need to Know newsletter. That's Sybil Wilkes. See right there. .com gives your name and your email address, and we'll have it in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. And we'll see you here every Monday through Thursday on Facebook and YouTube Live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to pick up a good book or 2 or 3. See you later.